Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the last session of Rewilding Food Festival. And yeah, we have a very low turnout, but I'm actually happy that those who really want to listen have joined. Um, so yeah, 1 second. Okay. So welcome back to the. Hello, everyone. I can hear myself to the last session. Oh, 1 second. Of Rewilding. Sorry. Okay, so I'll just um, I'll just do a little bit of tying up of the different themes that came up, and then we'll uh, open the floor for sharings from you. How was your experience of the festival? And then I'll share a little bit more about the way forward for Forgotten Greens. So today, Amar had asked how did this festival happen? How much time did I take to organize it? And mm, it, I think I spent a month and a half to organize the festival. This year, at some point, I was just preparing for a presentation to talk about Forgotten Greens, and I wanted to talk about how old it is, and that's when I went to the first post I had made about first Forgotten Greens post, and that's when I saw that it was. I started the page on 7th August, and I was and it 7th August 2018. And I've been wanting to bring conversations, different voices um, around food, wild food, foraging onto the same platform. And I thought this would be a good. I really wanted to celebrate 3 years of Forgotten Greens because uh, like I always say, it started as a social media page. I really didn't expect it to pick up the way it has picked up, and it evolved on its own. I did not have a working plan. I did not have a scaling up plan. Nothing. It was just uh, whenever I had time, I would do some research. I would cook something, and I would share that. Um, and it just uh, it just took a life of its own. So I wanted to celebrate that, and I felt the best way to celebrate it is by bringing people together. And a lot of these people who have been part of, who registered, have been part of Forgotten Greens different programs. They've been supporting a lot, in spreading the word about this work. And so I wanted to like bring all of them together. And also, there has been this ecosystem in India, and especially after the COVID lockdown, this ecosystem on social media that was building of different people who are talking about foraging and wild food in urban spaces. So I wanted to bring all of that together. And personally, I'm also a person who's really excited about these different aspects, especially different aspects around the food system. Um, and there's a lot that I want to talk about, and a lot of themes that I want to cover. So I thought maybe this is one of those first steps that I can take towards that. So that's how it happened. It was me, and then I pulled in Shushrudan, who's there right now as part of the call, to help me with all the organizing and sending out mails and messages and all those. And then there was Kaushik, who helped with all the designing and other things. And I do feel honored that all these speakers who said yes, they said yes, and they saw value in this festival, and they joined, and yeah, they took out time. They prepared a presentation and they spoke, and I can see the passion with which they were doing this. So I really feel honored that they were part of this, and I do think that this happened because of them. I was just a vessel to make this happen. Um, so I'll just share a few themes that came up for me in the last 2.5 days of Rewilding Food Festival. And then we can, I would love to hear what were the themes that came up for you, and what are you sitting with? So one that was very, which was also the intention, was to celebrate the diversity of the Indian subcontinent, and that's what we saw yesterday. There's such a rich diversity of food and wild food, whatever you choose, however you want to call it, in the Indian subcontinent, and it's very diverse. And like what Chef Thomas said today, we are consuming 20, 10, 15 to 20 vegetables only, but we are part of an ecosystem that is so rich and so biodiverse. And I do feel that we do need to start reclaiming that, instead of reclaiming, reclaiming food like kale and quinoa that is coming from, that is not part of this biodiversity. So we really need to start reclaiming that, and we really need to start talking about it. And I think more than talking about it, we need to start, we like, at a personal level, we need to start engaging with these conversations. We need to go out there, document what was your community's traditional food, how did they eat, what were the different seasons they follow. uh, because I was just thinking how in southern part of India, wild greens are usually eaten during monsoons. However, in the northern part of India, especially in Punjab, Delhi, if I'm not wrong, greens are eaten during winters. So, if just in the country there's such diversity, and more and more people document it and talk about it, and I think own it up. That is the most important thing. There needs to be an ownership, and I'm talking about a healthy ownership, not an unhealthy, this is my birthright kind of an ownership, but really own that and feel pride about it. And that's where I think the shift will start happening. uh, the other theme that came up for me through the different talks, especially the different talks by Suresh today, Suresh and Aruna, and Madhi yesterday, about sustainability and how sustainable is it to consume wild food. And um, when city dwellers start extracting wild food from forests or from rural spaces, the imbalance that it creates, and what is that we can do. And I really liked what Suresh said today. He said, try to grow these wild plants, which no longer will be wild, but try to grow them in your pots, try to grow them in your garden spaces, instead of trying to grow cabbages and spinach and methi. Try to grow that so that the burden of taking it from an endangered space is lessened. And that made a lot of sense to me. And Forgotten Greens, the work that I have been doing over the last 1.5 years has been to really empower in urban dwellers to start noticing what grows in their ecosystem, what grows in their region, in near their buildings, in their terrace garden, so that and maybe they are not traditionally wild food, but they are still edible, and they can be eaten, they can be consumed, they can be cooked into a dish. So how do we shift that perspective, that wild food is somewhere out there in the nature, somewhere out there in the forest, and we need to go there, we need to get hold of a farmer who will do it for us. Shift that completely and start looking at what grows wild in your own ecosystem, and how do you access that, how do you consume that, how do you start innovating with that. And I think that is really needed today, um, because of that imbalance that's happening. And I do feel that that shift will somewhere like balance things out. um, and and something I heard was this, I like to call it the shaming of food, because myself, I have, when I talk about traditional foods and I talk about foraging greens, there's always this question, why do you want to do this? It's a poor person's food, and why do you want to go back to what old people used to eat? So and there is this, it comes from this understanding that something is superior. What is, and what is bought in a market is much more superior than what is available freely. Unfortunately, that is not superior. And I and personally, I have experienced this, and I heard this in Madhvi's talk yesterday, in Aruna's talk yesterday, and I I think what we can do as individuals, one is, as a collective, we can talk more about it, and again, that ownership needs to happen. But at the same time, we ourselves need to start shifting that perspective that, oh, the Adivasis don't, they just eat uh, leaves, they just eat what grows in the farm, they don't eat proper food. What is proper food and what is improper food? We ourselves need to look at these biases that we may carry, and shift that perspective. That's really important. And also engage, if you have children, or if you are an educator, engage your children with, with these conversations, have conversations with them about food, what is food. um, you know yeah, really, like, uncondition the ideas of food, um, wild food, uh, bad food, good food, exotic food. I don't know. There's so many, like wild meat is considered as dirty, and at least what I have in my interactions that I have seen. So to shift that perspective, and to have like healthy conversations with children also, and yes, have healthy conversations with your peers, but at the same time, children, to shift that perspective. Um, and something that I've been sitting with is, who tells these stories, and uh, you know uh, who is the person who shares these stories. When I wanted to document a particular a recipe of a greens, in my from my family, I had to get in touch with an elderly woman who shared how it is cooked. But when I end up talking about, when I present that to the world, do I really acknowledge her, and or is it just a knowledge that I'm sharing? So, from whom is this story coming from, and who is sharing this story? And I do want to, be more conscious of this as part of Forgotten Green's work. Uh, who tells the story, and where is it really coming from? And uh, these are some of the things that I do feel I would love to have more conversations about uh, in the future. Maybe have more talks, maybe more mini festivals. I don't think I have the energy to do one more festival at least in the near future, but mini festivals, maybe a talk. And if you feel excited about this too, do reach out. We can plan something together. So yeah, these are some of the things that I am sitting with, and I wanted to share because I felt these were the overarching themes that came out. I would love to hear what are some of the questions that you are sitting with for yourself, um, because you heard so many people talk about different aspects of rewilding. So I would really like to hear, but very few people talked about. There were questions and there were responses, but what are you sitting with for yourself, and what would you like to um, take forward from here for your own journey? Uh, yeah, for your own journey of rewilding. So do feel free to share. We have some time. We have like 10 minutes to do this. You can unmute yourself and talk. Uh, yeah. Yes, Amar.
Yeah, hi Shruti, and I did mention this to you on an IM as well, but uh, really thankful for you to bringing up all this. I mean, yesterday also we would, I think today or yesterday, I can't really recall, I lost time on that. But I was telling you about getting to know all these people across the various regions who are working in this space, because the first time when I really got introduced to wild, um, uh, the vegetables and the leafy greens, all that, was the Triple O Farm Wild Festival. What I heard that day was really thought provoking, and the reason I went there was like, okay, let's explore what it is all about. I never had explored wild greens. I had never had any. I mean, possibly maybe one or two here and there, but not specifically as, okay, today we will have something like this. Okay, nothing like that. And I said, okay, let's go there. And as Chef Thomas was mentioning in the evening today, I was there in that same festival. 30, 35 wild leafy greens. I mean, there were about 20 types of leafy greens. I did twice the round of eating. I mean, it was take, eat, taste, whatever. I mean, I went around, took few things again, went around talking to those women, those people, and understanding how they grow, why they grow, how they eat. And one of the things that I understood is, if this is not documented, this will be lost soon. I mean, anyway, this is the generation where I don't know a lot of it. When I talk of next generation, they'll only know palak and methi. I'm damn sure of one green, maybe amaranth to an extent, and dhania patti in everything. That's how it's looking, right? I mean, I don't want that to happen. Where does it help me is, I document food to the extent I could. I mean, I do make content for TV and digital and all that. I'm trying to see where these can fit in. I'm trying to see how we can integrate it any of this. Plus, there is a whatever an influence circle I have in terms of talking about these as knowledge base, as as a student who knows a little better probably than the next guy whom I'm talking to. So how could I educate some more, help them to get there? Because some of the things that yesterday and today what we spoke about is not only how these are beneficial from traditional knowledge point of view, but health benefits. I mean, think of it. We are. I mean, there are other studies, and I don't want to get into that. But we are becoming a country where a lot of diseases are becoming immune because we have access to antibiotics so easily. India doesn't have an antibiotics control or anything, right? You could just go over the counter, so many of them. A lot of diseases are becoming resistant to all those. So how go back to some of this knowledge and then use that to health benefit to that extent as well. Not only for me, maybe few more. I mean, yearly once only, if I were to eat, like I was mentioning, those neem flowers, it was yearly once. But have I done that for last 10 years or 12 years? I can't recall, because we've not been doing that. We felt, who will go through all that effort? Who will go through doing all that? And just it's lost. And there are so many other things like that, and that's my intention, to try and get educated and pass on that education to people as much as I can. And obviously, wherever I can document it in a way, it will be helpful, that it can be preserved. That's something which I would want to do that, because I mean, when we as researchers look back, one of the things we realize is, as Indian food culinary is not documented enough. I mean, that's to largely say people didn't want to share recipes or didn't want to document. They felt it was too much effort, pass it down the verbal route. Why not now bring it up into a world stage? I understand what Chef Thomas was mentioning, that are we endangering, sorry, pardon the tongue twister there, but Is it the threat to the tribal people? Maybe making it mainstream. Could be, could not be. I mean, we will not explore that part. There could be a super ingredient coming out of India as well. Why not? I'm saying today we are talking about food waste, food hunger. All those topics are top of the mind. I mean, we waste one third the food that we produce. Now these are wild forages. We will not growing them. They are growing on their own. Can we have a meal a week replacing few of these things? It's too ambitious a plan, but maybe not. At least at my end, my friends and my family, can I do that? That's all I'm trying to see. My circle of influence, I'll let me put it that way. Can they adopt this? Bring some of these back is my intent. And thanks really for doing this and putting it all together. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amar. Preeti, you raised your hand second.
Hi, Shruti. Thank you for conducting this wonderful festival. First of all, I couldn't join many of the sessions because I traveled from India only a couple of days ago, and and couldn't manage to join in. I was a bit sick, but whatever I could manage attending, it has been very inspiring. And for me and my husband, basically, what we do over here is conduct a yearly event. It's an annual event where we invite our friends at home and talk about regional foods and some lost recipes or some lesson known cuisines or lesson known ingredients in our country. And the recent event was mainly to look into the forest food, and it touched upon certain subjects which we have been talking about in this festival, the wilds, and that was an eye opener for us both. And it gave us a way to, I know, I would rather say it became a route for us to reach out to our roots, the two different roots, I would say. And it has been a learning experience, just not for both of us, but the community who's residing in the UK, because they have basically come so far off from the country, and they are limited with the resources which are available around here. And for the next generations, let alone the next generation, even us, we are not able to identify these greens which our forefathers have been eating. And they have been mentioned in so many manuscripts. I was reading so many manuscripts and I couldn't identify those. And there are so many manuscripts mentioning about these wild greens or the berries or even the types of aubergines which need to be detoxified before they can be actually eaten. And that is kind of mystical. Why have we forgotten about all these? If they are there documented in the manuscripts, why have we come to a stage where we can identify only a few, like Chef Thomas mentioned this morning, that the next generation might be able to speak only about 10 or 15 greens. So yeah, that's how I see it. And hopefully with these sessions, I'll be able to listen to the next recording which you send us later on, and I'll be able to learn more, and that might show me a different path to lead and get the community in the UK involved as well, so that we can draw the parallels as well at the same time, just not the Indian greens, but also the ones which are grown in the Europe. So we can read the books which have been written by the botanists in Europe, the pharmacist over here, so we can actually draw a parallel and read and find more interesting stuff for the generations coming. And good luck for the next, whatever you do, your future endeavors, Shruti, and your team.
Thank you, Preeti. Deval, I think you raised your hand next.
Hi, everyone, and hi, Shruti. Thank you so much to you and your entire team for organizing this so flawlessly and having giving us the opportunity to meet so many wonderful people doing such amazing work in the area of wild food and forgotten greens. Um, what I think that the 2 days were, it was so many thoughts running over with all the ideas that people were talking. But I felt Suresh ji's ideas were very practical and maybe something that gave a different perspective, because when we say foraging and stuff, there are not many people who would love to do it, but somewhere when we talk about foraging wild foods and forgotten foods, we want to conserve them. And what better way to conserve it than to grow it and let it grow in wherever possible place. So I think that is something that is going to stay with me. And as I mentioned, I'm trying to rewild my entire farm boundary, and I've convinced 4 other farmers to do the same with their farm boundaries. So where I live, there's a ravine, and there are so many wild things that grow in the ravine. And luckily, still those ravines are there, and we still go out there and forage things. So, for example, I really don't remember the English name or the scientific name, but there's this thing known as gunda in Gujarati. The gunda is a little bigger version, and then there's this smaller version of it, which is gundi. So both of them are consumed in a very different way, and people still remember this how to eat it. So I think what we started doing is we started collecting seeds from the ravines and started a nursery where we start growing all these things and planting it in the farm periphery. This has been working a little bit, but then there are so many things. What happened was, because the farm boundary was growing all these things and people were trying to let it grow, they stopped spraying pesticides and weedicides, at least in the periphery. I mean, there is an effect of wind, but people have stopped spraying, at least those 4 farmers. So now newer weeds are growing, and I shouldn't call them weeds, but newer greens are growing, newer plants are growing. For example, we saw chicory growing, and many people know that chicory is edible. The chicory leaves are edible, and it it is very fantasized when it comes from Europe. But what if it grows here also? So that was one thing that I think that will stay with me. The other thing was, instead, we keep saying that we don't remember all these things and stuff like that, and that people are accepting kale and other foreign greens. But I think it's because they have been conditioned to think that things growing, for example, chicory that I'm saying is something that grows and the cows eat it. So all the villagers call it cow's food, or a cattle's fodder. So they believe, why should we eat cattle's food? So when we were talking about shame and everything, what I realized was, um, at least for the region where I live, they believe that all the things that the kettles are eating, only poor men would eat it because they don't have any option. So they compare their food with kettle's food, and there's where the shame comes in. But now things are changing, and people are saying, when as you said, people say ki aap kyun kha rahe ho? So same thing happened here as well. We were just plucking spiny amaranth, and they were like, you don't have to eat this. You have so many things growing in the farm. Why are you eating this? And then we explain the benefits, and then that's when they felt proud of their food. I was like, in simple language, I said, why you are so strong? Because you're consuming all these things. And they felt a pride in that. And I think, bridging that gap of making them understand why this is better, and also putting out the nutrient qualities of the greens that we think are good to the people who are not already consuming it, would help us to bring these forgotten things outside in the market and real place. And one more thing, with everything that is happening, I really felt that there should be some Facebook group or a WhatsApp group where we can, communicate like we have been doing for 2 days, where we can just uh, post something that we saw, or post something that we made out of the greens, or any food that we've foraged or grown or whatever. I think that would be something I would really look forward to. But thank you for the amazing opportunity that you've given every one of us. Thank you, Shruti.
Thank you, Deval. And I'll keep that suggestion. I'll note it down and we'll see. Monojit, I think you raised your hand after Deval.
Yeah, so Shruti, I think I came to know about Forgotten Greens through Phytopia. If you remember, there was a Bangalore Science Gallery program called Phytopia, where there was a cook along session, Who Feeds Bangalore. So they had organized a cook along session with Farmlore, and there were a similar themed presentations from Hariali Seeds, very similar to what Suresh said today. So this was kind of a new world to me. And why? Because I personally have always been interested in food, nature, old recipes, and I kind of thought that I know quite a bit about these things, but when I started hearing and listening to these people, I realized that how ignorant I was. I know not even know 1% of the knowledge that exists even in my own culture. Forget about India is such a diverse country, and so many other cultures. So coexist, right? Now there's a very interesting professional connection also that I have with this. So I work on languages, and languages are dying. So India is also extremely diverse in terms of languages, one of the most diverse countries in the world. And you'd be surprised to know that one language dies every 2 weeks. So that's the alarming rate. And when a language dies, all the knowledge with it dies, right? All the indigenous knowledge of plants, recipes, everything died. And there have been a lot of effort to document all these things, but there is a very interesting and parallel tussle there, which is similar here too. I see the same problem here too, which is in case of language, it's like if I get economic opportunity by learning a different new language, and if my own language doesn't help me in that, so why I don't learn that language? So typically English or maybe Hindi, and I don't talk my tongue because exactly I'm shamed for talking a language which speaking a language which others don't they see as a tribal language, poor man's language, whatever. Now, exactly the same way with food. And in case of food also, there is this question of very large scale sustainability. So the population has grown and is growing at such a rate and all that. So how do you, are these technologies and all sustainable at that scale? So to me, of course, there is so many things, and I can go on and on and on. I don't want to take that much time, but to me, that's a very interesting question to think about, and I want to go back and think about the parallels with language, and what we do here that might be useful here, in the context of food, and vice versa. And how can we learn from each other? The communities can learn from each other. And one simple thing in language which we have been trying, I personally have been involved with, is sensitize the children, because they are going to be the next generation. So sensitize them very early on that, look, we have such a rich heritage of language, not only in India, worldwide, and it is important to preserve them. So maybe with food also, children are good places to start with, even though they don't cook, maybe, but still they might, first of all, for themselves, this awareness is useful when they grow up, but also for their, parents, they might kind of influence their parents and friends and so on. Yeah, so I don't want to take much time. I just want to thank you. I can't thank you enough for bringing so many interesting people together. And I would definitely like to stay connected with this community. And if there are opportunities to contribute, like in documentation or other kinds of projects, I'll definitely look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Monojit. Anamika, Anamika and then Divya.
Like a lot of people are saying, Shruti, thank you so much to you and your team for making this happen. I couldn't unfortunately attend a lot of the sessions because network connectivity, I stay in the hills, so network connectivity has been an issue in the monsoons. I hope to catch up on these. Uh, I think your speakers were fabulous, but the kind of people who have also attended, the participants are fascinating. Like I'm very conflicted in getting to know the speakers first or the participants in the workshop because their lives sound and their life journeys sound just as fascinating. So I discovered your work much earlier. I don't remember from where, but then I heard you at that Eco-Exist workshop that you had taken. And this was a fantastic opportunity. In Uttarakhand, a lot of greens grow wild, especially in the monsoons. I've hardly identified a few. And like Monojit very rightly said, a lot of shame is associated with it. What Deval also said, it's very true. There are quite a few greens which we have discovered are edible, but gai khati hai. So we can't have it. It's fodder. So, working with farmers, I work in agri, I work with farmers. The one thing that has at least helped is to give them a more than fair price uh, to make it sustainable for them because in growing traditional greens, and if they're growing their traditional greens which are native to the region, the wild greens will grow alongside. The traditional grains and the wild uh, greens will grow alongside. Because it's only when it turns into monoculture and cash crop is where the pesticide comes in, where your losses multiply. But if you have the traditional grain, like we've had a lot of rain this year, but our finger millet, our madua, ragi, that has withstood it. It is the other cash crops which have been affected. And if we can give a more than fair market price to the farmer, he does not feel that need to sell. And automatically, the wild greens then are available for all of us to share and enjoy. So, and like again, a lot of people voiced it would be really nice to stay connected, but I know that's again a big responsibility. So, however and whenever you can make it happen, we would all, I think, be very grateful. So, thank you.
Thank you, Anamika. Divya, we'll have a last sharing, and if anybody wants to share, you can use the chat box. And I think that's all. Everybody has shared. Okay, Divya.
Um, yeah, hi. Of course, thank you very much for hosting this. Really, really appreciate what you're doing. It's wonderful to see that most of the people the speakers that you had, and even the people in the group are it's the young generation, the new it's great to see the youngsters wanting to go back to the roots and to learn and preserve this knowledge base. So I've been an urban farmer for about 20 years, and now I'm planning to move out onto my own land. One of the things that I'm really keen on doing the is that it's the lack of documentation of these things that I feel, and the lack of like the repository of knowledge is within living people now. And it's great that young people like y'all are working on preserving it. But I really worry sometimes about the older people, um, their own disconnect with especially in the indigenous areas, their own disconnect with the younger generations means that there's been a break in that flow of knowledge. So one of my projects, which I hope I'm able to take up once I settle down outside, is to make a kind of a database of indigenous and not just edible wilds, but even indigenous seeds, people who are preserving seeds even of other food, like even rice has got so many varieties, like Monojit talked about the diversity in this country. In every food, there is so many different types, and we only hear in monoculture, you only hear about the one or two types. So some kind of a repository of a database of people who are working on this so that people can find each other and gain that knowledge. Not a physical database, but a database of people, not a seed bank, but a place where people can find seeds from each other of that region, etc. Sacred groves, also medicinal plants. So yeah, once I start putting that together, I'll be happy to reconnect with people. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Divya. Looking forward to it. Amar, did you raise your hand or is it the previous hand raising?
No. I did raise my
Okay.
hand. I lowered it earlier. I mean, it's been discussed a couple of times today and yesterday about the food shaming that we were talking about. And in fact, I was on a very extensive workshop on Mahua. It was a 3 day one, a longer one, I guess. And Mahua is another one which there are a lot of food which is being made. Liquor is everybody knows, but food which the people used to have, and they claim not to have it now, while they have it. And one of the things from a psychology point of view which came about and which was discussed in the workshop is how we who are going ahead and talking about this is helping them get over that shame. The shame is not because of the food, the shame is because of the aspirational value of other foods, which makes rice more precious, or gehu more precious. Like the earlier millets are looked down only because the gehu was brought up. I mean, my mom tells me bread in her childhood was only when she used to get ill. That was yearly once a fever or whatever, and now we have bread like a week a packet empties up, right? I mean, that's become aspirational, and people do have this access to all the channels, all the TV, all the print, everything, and that comes up. So another thing possibly is about talking to them whenever it happens, that it's not about the aspirational value of those foods. I mean, while it seems like that, and which Monojit spoke about, like English being primary. I mean, you compare those things, like if you don't speak English, I mean, one is looked down upon, and same way. So I think it's about the aspirational value of things, and we as a group also can take that back whenever we are talking about it. It just is about telling those people that it's not about the other aspirational foods we want to explore, just because we want to bring this into a lot more attention, and I think that makes a little more sense that I felt. And Shruti, I think whenever you want to talk about the next steps in terms of if you're doing anything, how do we keep in touch? I think you said you would like to share a few email IDs of the speakers and things as the part, but I would let you also talk about that. Yeah. So yeah, that were only my thoughts. Kind of like when we are talking about food shaming, I thought I would.
Thank you. Thank you, Amar. Deval, I just wanted to check because we have 10 minutes, 11 minutes more, and I have a few more things to share. Is it really urgent?
I just wanted to say that even rice, different varieties. Like I had a conversation with Sailesh from Tripolo Farms, and he said there were more than 6 lakh varieties of rice. And so when we say that millets are indigenous to India, even millets are not. So I think when we talk about rice as the villain or wheat as the villain, it's not really like that. But yes, only a certain kind of rice that is consumed is a problem.
Thank you. And this is yes, this is a conversation that can be never ending. I had a few months back, I had attended a studying food workshop where, all these conversations were just, like I felt like, oh, I'm reaching somewhere, I'm reaching some conclusion, and something else would be put in, and then all the ideas that I was forming would get muddled, and then new things to sit with and new things to think of, and I think I want to leave this festival also on that note, that there's no one answer. And I think the day we reach to one answer or one perspective, this is it. I think um, that's a trap. Personally, that's what I feel. So, and I want us to go back with all the different questions and different conflicting questions and the conflicting answers. Um, yeah, to do that. I also want to thank those who have commented. Priyanka, Shrishti, thank you for typing in. I understand Zoom fatigue very much. I am really exhausted. And also thank you, Sumam. That's my mother. I'm really happy that she's here right now. Okay, so some things, if you want to continue, some things to stay connected to Forgotten Greens journey. If you wish to, travel along with Forgotten Greens, I am trying to be more active on Instagram. So if you do follow Forgotten Greens on Instagram, you can support through that. Forgotten Greens hosts Rewild Your Life workshops, which is basically empowering city dwellers to learn more about what is growing in their ecosystem and supports them to recognize it, how to cook with it, the different properties, and how to be more aware of their own ecosystem, and shifting that perspective from wilderness out there to wilderness right where you're living. So and it has we've had a really overwhelming response for Rewild Your Life. It is done over WhatsApp, but it is pretty good. Don't worry, it is. I've done 5 batches, so I know how to play around with the timings and the overload of information and everything. So do consider or do spread the word about Rewild Your Life. And if you yourself want to explore what's growing around you, do consider joining it. I am hoping that COVID is not going to be, is going to be, I don't know, just hoping that things I can host more wild food walks. I'm planning to host a wild food walk this in Chennai this month. So if you want a wild food walk being hosted in your city, if I'm traveling to your city, do consider hosting wild food walks. It would be nice. And there are a lot of projects that some of them are still being conceptualized, some of them are being worked on. And if you would like to support the different projects that's happening, and you can reach out to us, and I would love to share the different projects, and you can help fulfill the vision that we have, the different visions, and one vision that we have. Some of the ways that you can support Forgotten Greens is spreading the word. This work, like a lot of these initiatives, this they grow when people talk about it, when people spread this, it's more word of mouth kind of spreading about the work. So you can support that way. Or you can also connect Forgotten Greens to other initiatives that you think can, we can cross pollinate with other initiatives. And also for different projects, a lot of times what has happened is projects don't take off because of financial issues. There's not enough finances, and we can't afford to do a lot of things. So if you would like to support financially, you're more than welcome to do it. You can reach out to me personally, and we can talk about it. So these are different ways you can support Forgotten Greens. As a way forward for the festival, we will be sending out all the recordings and the list of all the speakers, their contact details, and how you can contact details tomorrow. Because we've had 3 full days of work, we might be sending it only by tomorrow night. So please, be patient. We will be sending it tomorrow for sure. And along with that, I am hearing the need to create a community where these conversations can continue and more sharings can happen. I will sleep over it and get back to you and we'll share it in the email. I think that's about it with the logistical part of it. Is there anything else? No. Okay. Yes, the plan is to take a day off, but after finishing this work, I'm planning to take like a week off. But I want to, this entire festival wouldn't have been possible without you, without each one of you who made it happen. You registered and you came for the sessions, and those who couldn't come for the sessions, they'll be watching the recordings later. A lot of people have registered only to watch the recordings. So I do think you are what made this happen. And again, I was just this vessel. You and the speakers, everybody made this happen. So thank you for trusting Forgotten Greens, to hold something like this and joining. It does really, really mean a lot. And yes, we will have. Hopefully, we'll get to see you and meet you in the future engagements. Uh, Thank you. I just wanted to invite Shushrudan. He's been behind the camera. Shushrudan, do you want to just say hello if you feel like it? Yeah, he's been, you're on mute.
Yeah, thank you, Shruti. And I feel honored by being part of the team and being attending in the session, because I felt so much connected to this particular topic. I wanted to join the next Rewilding session, and then the festival came, and now I am exploded with the information. I don't know what to do with all the information. And I was thinking about the information I learned from my grandmother, the people I met. So I was remembering all those things, and I want to study more. And every speaker and every participant inspired me a lot, motivated me a lot to be part of this journey that you all are taking. So I joined in as a volunteer, and now I'm taking off from this session as a participant, as a person who wished to join the journey. And thank you. I'm really honored to be in this space. Thank you, Shruti. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. We will close the call now. And yes, we will send you mails tomorrow.
Thank you, Shruti.